Hey, how's it going today? I want to talk about stakeholders and what that term is. Stakeholders are individuals, groups, or entities that have vast interest in particular project, organization, decision, or activity. They can be directly or indirectly be affected by the outcomes of results of the project or activities. Stakeholders can include a wide range of individual groups, such as internal stakeholders or external stakeholders. Internal stakeholders, that would be employees, individuals working within the particular organization, managers and executives, decision makers, or leaders within an organization. Shareholders, individuals or entities that own shares within a company. Board of directors, individuals responsible for overseeing the organization's management or strategic direction. That would be overall everyone internally that would classify it as stakeholders within a company. External stakeholders, that would be customers, clients, people who use organization products or services, suppliers, individuals or companies that provide goods or services or resources to the particular organization, partners, and alliances. Other organizations within the collaborative relationships within particular organization, governments and the regulatory bodies, entities that oversees and regulates the industry or sector. Community, people living in the vicinity of the organization or impact by its operations. Non-government organizations and advocacy groups, organizations that advocate for specific cause or interests that perhaps align with overall organization goals. So they're doing, or at least trying to achieve similar goals. Investors and lenders, entities providing finance support or capital for organization. Media, journalists, reporters, and media outlets that cover the organization activities. Interesting. Competitors, other organizations in the same industry or sector. Environmental groups, organizations concerned with environmental impact and sustainability, which has been perhaps changed recently. That's overall external stakeholders and overall everyone who is affected by a particular project or organization externally. Overall definition for stakeholders, I have recently got to know that within doing my own qualifications. Well, overall, I'm seeing definition for stakeholders coming up on the paperwork recently. I do not believe that's been done all the time. I think definitions are changing and industries are moving and things are changing constantly. As stakeholders, I believe, my personal understanding, everyone who's been affected by particular actions within an organization. That's my own definition for stakeholders, but it's perhaps slightly different to how others were seeing stakeholders. I want to touch on some important area, which I believe is important. Every day, every single person can vote differently. They can vote with their feet to what particular country where they are staying, and if they believe that's the best country where they can be, the same they can vote with their voice, raise issues within particular organization, company, raise some of concerns with their voice, as well as a lot of people can vote with their money while making purchasing decisions for particular product or services. And an overall person who decides to support particular organization with their money, that's their particular voting rights within that organization, and that's where I believe stakeholders and where a lot of customers making their decisions with their money for what particular organizations, their money, how they're voting, and what kind of organizations they're looking to support, and with being more conscious with your decisions, and perhaps education that will be one of those areas for what kind of organizations or a lot of people or groups of people are looking to support with overall money and where that money goes and what kind of decisions that company makes. That's some of the issues when it comes to environments, governments, media, and freedom of information and sharing that with others. I have published a book. Name of the book is game strategy. You can find this book on my company's website. I'm talking about some of the key principles when it comes to business and understanding. I'm sharing a lot of information with everyone who is inspired to become a business owner, entrepreneur, and perhaps venture into business world and some of the information that one needs to take on board than taking up the risk. Something that myself I spent years and years of reading and understanding on market research and life experience when it comes to business and how it works, how to go about every day when it comes to business. Working hard. I'm sharing some of that knowledge within the book, and I believe it's a very, very valuable information that I managed to gather over my years, my personal experience, something I'm sharing within the book. You can find that book on the major retailers, or you can find it on my company's website. See more information in the description. The interests of stakeholders can vary widely, and they may have different priorities and concerns. Effective stakeholder management involves identifying key stakeholders, understanding their interests and needs, and involving them into relevant decisions or activities to ensure their perspectives are considered. This approach can help organizations manage risk, build a relationship, and make more informed and sustainable decisions. I want to share a slightly different example in the game of poker and what stakeholders means in the game of poker. In the context of game of poker, the term stakeholder doesn't have the same meaning as it does in a business or organization context. In the poker, a stakeholder typically refers to someone who has financial interest in a player's success or outcome in particular poker game or competition. I would like to touch on particular areas from different perspectives. From a player's perspective, stakeholders offer limited bankroll. The poker player might have limited amount of money set aside for playing poker. Ambitions, the player might aspire to enter a high stake game or prestigious poker competitive game that requires a large buy-in that they can afford. Stakeholders' perspective, investment opportunity. A stakeholder recognizes the potential skill and talent of the player and believes that the player can achieve success in a particular game or competitive game. Providing funds, the stakeholder offers to cover some of all players' buy-in and related experiences, travel accommodations for a target game or competitive game, agreements and terms. The player and the stakeholder negotiates an agreement upon the terms of investment, which typically includes how the potential winnings will be split. Agreement and investment percentage split. The agreement often outlines a specific percentage split of the player's winnings that the stakeholder will receive. For instance, if the stakeholder provides 50% of buy-in, they might receive 50% of players' winnings. The risk sharing, the stakeholder shares the risk of the player's performance. If the player loses, the stakeholder investment is lost as well. Game or competitive performance. Player performance, the player leads in the chosen game competitive setting, aiming to perform well and secure portion of the prize pool potential winnings. If the player wins money in the game or competitive game, the agreed upon percentage of those winnings is allocated to a stakeholder as the return of the investment, outcomes, and settlement, win or lose. If the player wins, both of the player and stakeholder benefits. If the player loses, the stakeholder doesn't recoup the investment. Interesting. Stakeholders essentially enable players to participate in high-stake games and competitive game that they might not be able to afford independently. This financial support comes with experience of sharing in the potential rewards, creating a mutual benefit agreement. The practice of staking in a common is in poker world and serves as a way to provide opportunities for players and potential profits for investors. Interesting. Overall, just to summarize what I have just read, that's a full breakdown of what it's like to sitting at the table with the big boys, and perhaps sharing part of the risk and perhaps of the prize pool. And that's pretty much summarized, I guess, investment world. To be honest, if I would be having perhaps if I have a necessary know-how within industry, I would be looking for people who might be interested in investing in my skills with potential outcome of success in particular project or launching a company. I believe it's very similar. It's not the same. It's very, very similar, I guess. Yeah, there's way more obstacles in the real world than it might be at sitting on the pool table, I guess. Thanks for watching and see you next one.